Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Through the Pages. I have a book for you today on one of my favorite subjects to read about, socialism. It is from Nathan J. Robinson, Why You Should Be a Socialist. So, I've only read really two other books that are like specifically on socialism. Read other books that kind of like touch to parts of it, whether that be UBI or whatever it is. But the other two I read, I wasn't a huge fan of, honestly. So the other one, it's the guy who writes for Jacobin, Socialist Manifesto, and Jacobin's referenced a lot in here, and I love that, like, it's not just straight competition, like, because the author of this, Nathan J. Robinson, does magazine Current Affairs, and you could say, like, socialist magazines versus socialist magazines, but it's like, same goal, guys, like, same team. So it really is just like, hey, his writing's awesome, and like it's just good to have more of it. This other one, Danny Katch, I'm not familiar with. Socialism Seriously, I can't say I was a huge fan of either one of them. I learned about them for sure, because I think if you asked me like 3 years ago, maybe like define socialism, like what does it mean, like I couldn't have got too deep on it, but if you asked me to answer a bunch of political questions, I would probably be listed as a socialist. Whereas now, I'm trying to understand not only that language, but just more political language. And this book does a great job of it. So sometimes, I think we tell the story of socialism and it's told through what went wrong. And, you know, obviously we think of Soviet Union, but there's authoritarian socialism, if you even can call it that. But this is really contemporary in America, where it was written in 2019, so didn't have the pandemic, which is fine. It's still like feels very current. It has Donald Trump administration, and it's why the left is faltering. And I love that it's not like trying to build something so new in a way. It's showing like, hey, there's an existing group of people who lean left. You need to better understand the scope of leftism. Like, if it just seems like so many friends, and most of it would be media related, are wrapped up in kind of liberalism. And this is something I've discussed with a few friends, always kind of felt where this book like laid it out so clearly, like, yep, it's centrist, generally left-leaning, right if it needs to be in case of like helping Wall Street, Obama administration, and things like that. And so it really hits the nail on the head without coming off as like sympathizing with the right. Where that, through the 2020 election, 2016 as well, anyone who had a critique of the left candidate was labeled as like some closet right-winger. And that's a bullshit paradigm, honestly, pardon the language. It's in general, American politics seems to be conservative to liberal, and that's like the scope. And a lot of what we see as the extremes do fall into that in the like social issues, I would say, or like wokeness being like now a characteristic of like far left, which is patently false. Like far left to me is socialism. That's like massive economic shifts. Like there's socialist ethics, which the backbone of all of which are economic, and then there's the full socialist economy, which is a big leap. But that's far left to me. Far left isn't trying to cancel people. Like that's liberalism. And so he does a very good job of explaining that, even though like those sorts of issues have escalated so much since then. But I think he kind of saw what was coming and what was happening, and why people on the right correctly like mock the left. I mean, if you look at the Babylon Bee, which is basically like the right wing's Onion, it's hilarious. It's on point, and I agree with a lot of it. Like, because it's ripping on liberalism. And I think when people, if you say I'm left leaning, no doubt about it, it's right wing doesn't appeal to me, define it further. Ask them, like, not just if they have a D next to their name, that's my vote. Like, and I'm not saying, you know, obviously we have a two-party system. I voted Biden. I'm not that radical, but I I want ranked choice voting so I can start voting for the socialist candidate every single time, but knowing that the left-leaning one would win regardless if it's the truly left or liberal left, because right-wing is so dismal. So the book really helps to define some of the, what I would say, like murkier elements of politics, where sometimes you see so much chatter online and everything, and then if people have different definitions for different words and stuff, and it's a weird landscape where it's a hard thing to learn about, where this is so concise and there's so much information in here, but it's not an overload. It strikes a unique balance, and it's funny. There's a lot of wit in it that's really sharp. I know he just got into some hot water, unfortunately, for something that happened in his magazine, and I don't know enough about it at this time, but from what I understand, he made the dumb move of, he grew his magazine to a certain size. We had a lot of employees. Employees wanted to start a co-op, which would be pretty similar to a union, and he fired them. So, full honesty, can't give a full, like, anything this man does or says, like I can with one of the novels I'm about to review. But, yeah, so I saw the articles about it. I saw what he said about it, saw some things from employees. Like, I don't know enough. I learned about the magazine after reading this book. I don't know a lot about it. I'm not saying that to favor him, but it does seem like he was like, I started this thing in my bedroom, and now other people want to kind of have control of it, and I'm realizing, like, I want to pull that back. I do want to be in control of this, and I don't think it means it's like, oh, not actually a socialist. Like, I think he got to some of the tougher parts of the things you talk about and didn't know how to act. He's also very young. I mean, I don't say that as like an old man. I'm 30, but like, it sounds like the magazine got big pretty quick. I haven't read it. I want to. Like, honestly, I subscribe to Jacobin. Not even that I read it. It's literally just like anything to support socialist media getting out there. And it's so funny when you hear like CNN or something listed as socialist. It's like, they will never say a word against capitalism, so not socialist. Like, that's the core of it. It's not being woke. That's not socialism. I feel like books like this will help to clear up the landscape and stop the left from tripping over itself again and again and giving us shit candidates to vote for. So I would love to see a strong socialist party. DSA is pretty much the existing one, and whether you think it's the right one or not, like, let's put the fucking eggs in the basket. Let's go. Like, I'm signed up for my local DSA. I have not been able to attend a meeting yet. I always work Saturdays, but this two-party system's wrecking the country. Like, I don't think there's anyone who likes it. And so I do think that a strong socialist party is what the country needs. And I think most people who lean left need to read a book like this to see where they lie. If they read that and say, I don't agree with the socialist stuff, I don't want it, it feels handouty to me, I don't want any of it, I want centrist politics. And say centrist, and I'm liberal, and you can feel like I lean left, like gay marriage and stuff, like I'm all for it like that, so you lean a little left, not so conservative, but know that you're holding back so much good from people that are hurting. But yeah, so he breaks the book up well into sections of like what the left is generally complaining about, why that's a valid complaint, why we're not snowflakes for having feelings, and like it's broken into chunks very well. It can look like a thick book. It's really an easy read on it. It's like I flew through it. I think it's like 240 pages or something. Big type, big spacing, charts and stuff in there sometimes. It's not daunting. If you want to learn about socialism, of the massive socialist library that I have here, I would say check that one out, regardless of him being a weirdo, potentially. So if you enjoyed this book, if you want any more socialist books on here to be reviewed, drop a comment. I want to know, what socialist lit are you reading?